This is George from High Tech Legion. Over the first couple of years of the AiO craze, it seemed that every manufacturer was trying to cash in. Everybody from cooling manufacturers to memory manufacturers to case manufacturers. One company that was noticeably absent was Cooler Master. Cooler Master sat back for a couple of years and actually watched and learned from others' mistakes and finally did come out with their first AiO, the Sidon series. Followed that up with the Iceberg series, which was expandable. Now, they've also teamed up with Swiftech recently to release what is the king of all kings of 240mm AiOs, the Glacier 240L. They're now taking aim at the often overlooked 140mm form factor series with the new Nepton 140XL. So, getting a look at the Nepton 140XL. First, taking a look at the box. Quick overview. Maintenance free, fully assembled out of the box, filled, no maintenance required ever in the lifetime of the cooler. 2x surface area with ultrafine microchannel in the contact plate. The back of the contact plate uses ultrafine microchannels to get more contact area with the cooling liquid itself for better heat dissipation. Durable FEP tubing. It actually uses the thickest and also probably most flexible tubing we've seen on any other AiO, with the exception of the Glacier 240L. Now moving over here, liquid CPU cooler. Extreme cooling performance, extra large 140mm radiator, and dual Jet Flo 140mm fans. Like I say, the 140mm form factor is often overlooked. However, it offers 36% more surface area than a 120mm variation. With that, more surface area, more heat dissipation, better performance. Pretty simple right there. Moving up top, see the compatibility, all current and past sockets for LGA 2011, 1366, 1150, 1155, 56, and 773, and socket FM12, AM2, and 3. And moving around the back, just some quick points. Pure copper water block, the ultrafine microchannels, tool-free installation, and 120mm compatibility for the fans. So let's move over to the unit itself. Taking a quick look, first you get a look at radiator itself, 38mm thick, not 20 or 25mm thick like we're used to seeing. So again, more surface area is going to equal more heat dissipation. Also, you see very clearly 140mm, it's a larger radiator. Again, more surface area. Now also, you take a look at the fan mounts themselves, and we'll get a look a little more clearly on the back. 140mm mounts, also mounts for 120mm fans. This is actually kind of a big deal. One of the reasons that people have shied away from 140mm radiators is simply because 140mm fans tend to be not as conducive to radiator usage as 120s. If you did want to go to something like a Gentle Typhoon, you're not going to find a 140mm variation. So you can actually do this with 120mm fans. You're still going to get the increased surface area, but you can have the 120mm fan if you so desire. Also very important, if you're going to put this in a case that uses a 120mm exhaust fan, it's going to fit. You can use the 140mm up front, 120mm in the back if you like. So you can mount it. Gives you a little bit more flexibility in fan choice as well as flexibility in mounting options. The radiator is all aluminum, as you see, reservoir on the end with the tubing coming out. Now the fill port, as you see, is not to be opened, it is sealed. Now coming off of there, you've got the flexible corrugated FEP tubing. Is a bit more flexible than what we normally see in corrugated tubing. Reason for that being, if you see, it's actually significantly thicker. You're going to get much higher water flow. And there's also a reason for that. Once again, more water flow, more cooling. But the other point of that being the pump itself is a 2.9 watt pump. It's going to be about twice the power of what we normally see in an AiO. So you've got a more powerful pump, more surface area, more flow. So you've got everything going for better cooling from an AiO. Moving on to the contact plate. Pure copper, as you see, milled completely smooth, and on the inside, microchannel architecture so that you have more water passing over the plate itself through the grooves in order to take more heat away from the CPU. The pump itself plugs in with a simple 4-pin PWM, but or I should say it's 4-pin connector, but it is actually a 3-pin pump. It needs a constant 12 volts. So if you're going to plug it into a motherboard header, you better make sure that you have fan control turned off. It is a 1-speed pump. Now, included with the Nepton 140XL are two 140mm Jet Flo fans. The Jet Flo fans are actually really incredible fans. We just reviewed them, gave them an editor's choice in the 120mm variety. They are aimed specifically at radiators. Now, the 140mm variety included, as you can see, very simple looking fan, 4 tabs. You've got rubber grommets on all 4 points on both sides for mounting, 4-pin PWM. 800 to 2000 RPM. Now, at 2000 RPM, they are able to create 122.5 CFM at 3.5 millimeters of static pressure, which is absolutely astounding for a 140mm fan. That is a ton of air movement with a ton of static pressure, no problems whatsoever getting air through that thick radiator. Now, also something to keep in mind: do they get loud? Absolutely. They do top out at 39 dB. However, that's still not above what we're seeing in the included AiO fans from other companies in the 120mm variety. So does it get justifiably loud? Absolutely, no question. It's putting out 1.5 times the airflow and running at the same volume. So you're all good to go there. So great fans, specifically designed for radiators. As you can see, they have kind of a unique blade shape, which actually curves very dramatically. This is what keeps the static pressure up. The bands at the end create a little more turbulence, so you've got really nice looking fans that come with the Nepton with absolutely incredible performance. Taking a look at the included accessories and mounting kit. First, start warranty information, full 2-year warranty from Cooler Master. Next, get to the manual. This is one of the best examples of an illustrated manual I've ever seen. Really large, clear pictures, very easy to follow. Parts list up front, letting you know which each and every part they're referring to, so you can match it up front. This is also important because there are a lot of tool-free options in mounting the Nepton 140XL. You can do almost everything with thumb screws, the one exception being the brackets for the pump itself. For mounting that is done with small Phillips head screws. But even the fans can be mounted tool-free if you so desire with thumb screws. Really nice touch there. So all-in-one back plate. Mounting brackets for the pump for AMD and Intel. As I say, thumb screws on absolutely everything, right down to your fan mounts, so you can mount tool-free if you so desire. There are included screws for the fans also if you like. Y connector is included, as is small tube of TIM. There is no pre-applied TIM. You do have to put it on yourself. You can use the included TIM, or you can use any aftermarket TIM that you like. Next, we're going to prepare the Nepton for install. First step is going to be getting the back plate together. As you see, Intel or AMD. You want the side facing you that is going to be facing the back. So we're going to be doing an Intel install today. Now, for those of you who want to know about an AMD install, it is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the location of these 4 pins. It uses exactly the same hardware and procedure. So you can follow this along. You're just going to change where these 4 pins go. Now, on the Intel, I'm going to drop in the pin itself and take the retaining ring. The retaining ring goes with the full cover towards you. Hold the bolt all the way to the end, slip the retaining ring over it, and for an Intel install, it will click in 3 locations for 1366, 1155, and 776, as you see, and put it into the location you want it. Next, I'm going to work on the unit itself. As you can see, I've already affixed one side of the pump bracket. We'll do the other. Very simple procedure. The pump bracket itself slides right in, as you see, sits behind the mounting plate, and 2 screws will go in to hold it in place. Very, very simple procedure, getting the Nepton ready to go into the case. Now I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm actually going to fix the front fan so that I don't have to do it while it's in the case or while the pump itself is mounted. Simple procedure. Always make sure you're going to be using this as an exhaust, so you want it blowing through, as you see. You can line it up so that your wiring is going to be where you're going to have it. I'm going to be mounting this with the tubes down, so I'm going to want the wiring towards the back of the case. I will line it up. I'm then going to take thumb screws. Now make sure there are two different size thumb screws for the fans, that you use the correct size. You want to use the shorter for the inside fan. The longer thumb screws are for mounting through the case itself, which we will see when we get inside the case. And 4 thumb screws go in, mount the fan, and we'll be ready to put it into the case. Moving over to the case, first step, back plate into position. Obviously, it's all assembled. 4 bolts line up 4 holes, pushes into place. Now going around to the other side, you can see that the 4 bolts are coming through. Also, I've already gone ahead and applied the thermal interface material. So next step, we've got 4 spacers, which are going to go over the bolts. And these serve not only as spacers, but hold the back plate into place during the mounting. Next, we're going to take our pump and just fit it onto the bolts, as you see. And get your 4 thumb screws started. Now, thumb screws also do have slot for a flathead screwdriver. So if you are working in a tight space such as this, you can actually use a flathead to do your tightening. Now you just want to get the 4 started, and once they are started, you'll want to tighten them in an X pattern. And what I mean by that, your final tightening, you're going to want to do 1, 2, 3, 4 on the final tightening. You don't want to tighten one all the way, then put on another one. You want to work your way around and get even pressure on the contact plate. So now we've got them started, and they will actually stop once they are fully tightened. So got the stop. Got the stop. And finally, number 4, tighten all the way, and your pump and contact plate are in. Just that simple. Next up, going to get the radiator into place. First step, rear fan is going to go into place. And we're going to use the longer thumb screws to go through the case and through the fan, and will then go into the radiator to hold it into place. So I'm going to put these 4 into place. Now, very important when you're putting your fan in, make sure it is going in the same direction as your front fan. You want all the air moving this way. So very important, you want the fan blowing in the proper direction. You can tell which direction it's blowing in. This is your exhaust side with the back frame. So I'm going to put the fan into place using the 4 thumb screws. And as you can see, come right through. With that, we'll just move the radiator into place. Get thumb screws lined up. Simply tighten. Again, I'm not using a screwdriver. I'm doing this entirely tool-free and not having any difficulty whatsoever. And as far as the physical mounting, that's it. It's just that quick and simple. And you are in. And as you can see, I mean, you've got a good amount of room and you've still got this nice size radiator in push-pull configuration. So all installed in the case, all that's left is the wiring. Obviously 2 fans can go to your PWM fan headers. If you do not have 2 CPU fan headers, you can use the included Y connector. Pump fan, I've connected to a CPU, or not CPU, I should say a fan header on the motherboard, which is actually for a chassis fan. Now it is a 4-pin, like I say, connector on the pump. However, it's only 3 pins active, so it will connect to any 3 or 4 pin header. It does not use PWM. It's speed controlled by voltage. You can also connect it directly to the power supply if you like, using a 12 volt connector, and it will run at full speed all the time. But obviously it's going to be speed controlled, connected to a motherboard header, so I would definitely recommend going straight to a case fan header if you can. So install-wise, the Nepton 140XL was very, very easy, as you see. The FEP tubing was very easy to work with, like we saw. Very, very nice looking components. You do get actually an LED glow ring around the Cooler Master logo, as you see once the unit's powered up. Good looking in the case, very, very blacked out. Great sleeving on all the cables, even the fan cables, right to the ends. So you get a very, very easy, very nice looking install with the Nepton 140XL. Obviously, no problems with RAM clearance, anything of that nature. You do have a little workability here on the pump as far as the tubing. The 2 fans, very easy. The tool-free was great, very easy to use. Once again, optional. You can use screws on the back fan if you so desire. You can use a flathead to tighten down the pump if you like as well. So we've got it installed. We're going to take a look at how it performs. Now, if we were going strictly by the numbers in terms of performance, the Nepton 140XL obviously did very, very well in the testing. We got numbers and performance we're typically used to seeing with a 240mm radiator out of the 140. Now, the nice thing about this being, you're getting this great performance out of a unit that can be mounted in the back, in the front very easily, much smaller form factor, much more universal fit, especially with those 120mm mounts included. So you are getting top flight performance as far as an AiO out of a smaller unit. This, of course, as we said, due to the thicker radiator, higher quality Jet Flo fans, stronger pump, etc., nice FEP tubing. So we've got all that together. Most interesting thing though were the numbers at 1200 RPM. At 1200 RPM, the Nepton 140XL was basically indiscernible outside of the case, even with an open air case like I'm using right here. With a sealed case, even more so, going to be quieter. You can bump it up even a bit more from there before you start being able to notice it. So that 1200 RPM number I used was not just an arbitrary number. That was actually about where I started being able to hear it outside the case. So that number is huge in that you're getting this really incredible performance without any noise. Now, above that, does the Nepton 140XL get loud? Yeah, it absolutely does. There's no question about it. Does it get as loud as, say, an H100i? No, it really doesn't. It's an entirely different sound. It's a lower pitch, much less obtrusive, or I should say intrusive. It's just, a different type of sound. It does get loud, like I say, but it doesn't have to perform as well. So that's really the big thing. So that's why the 1200 RPM numbers are really impressive. Now also as far as noise, the pump, when you're running it on standard control as far as speed, just using the motherboard standard BIOS control, really very, very quiet. When the pump tops out, it does whine. There's no question about it. It's a very high-pitched whine, not so noticeable outside the case, definitely noticeable with the side off. No question about that. So it's going to depend whether your case is sealed or not, whether or not you're going to hear it. But the thing being, if you're running the fans on the same curve, you never hear it over the fans. So at lower RPM, you never hear the pump, never hear the fans. Higher RPMs, you're going to hear the fans more than the pump. So pump noise never really becomes a problem, unless for some odd reason you're running the pump at a much higher rate than you're running your fans, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So now overall, I'm going to give the Nepton 140XL a gold award. While it does represent a great value, especially $99.95, you're getting performance like a 240 millimeter radiator. So you're getting the performance, no question about that. You're still going to be dealing with some noise issues. Installation, fantastic. As we saw, went right in. The tool free was no problem whatsoever. Real quick, easy install. Quality of the parts, no denying any of that. Really well put together. Very nice looking, great sleeving on all the cables. So great looking unit in the case. So it's got a lot going for it. Now the reason I'm only going to give it a gold, not an editor's choice, because while it's making huge strides in the right direction for AiOs, it still was quite a bit louder than the Phanteks 14 PE and didn't have the performance. So it's not quite up to snuff as far as that goes, as far as noise performance against the top-end air coolers. But like I say, definitely making big strides in the right direction for AiOs. So gold award for the Nepton 140XL. If you're going to be doing something where a big air cooler is out of the question, definitely should be one of your top choices, if not the top choice in terms of an AiO liquid cooler.